Hello Crafty Llamas. In this video I'll be showing you how to do Judy's magic cast on. So for this you're going to need a circular needle. I've just got a really short circular needle here. I've got 5.5mm Cubics needles, the Knit Pro Cubics needles on a short cable. And then I've just got some yarn here. I've just chosen quite a boisterous colour just to try and make it as easy as possible to see. Right, so first of all, this is a cast on used a lot for things like toe-up socks, and I've used it for mittens and bags before, any sort of kind of knitted thing where you've got a seam at the bottom that you want a smooth or invisible seam for at the beginning, like an invisible cast on. So depending on the number of stitches depends on how long you want your tail to be. You're not going to need a particularly long one for socks, but I'm just going to give myself about an arm's length. And you're going to create a slip knot. So this slip knot is going to act as your first stitch. So you're going to be casting on to both needles, which is where this varies a little bit. So it's almost like a bit of a slingshot cast on, but ever slightly different. Right, so what you're going to do is you're going to have your tail end at the top and you're going to have your working end at the bottom. So like a slingshot, what you're going to need to do is you're going to pick up and hold both tails together, and you're going to use your thumb on one to have it down here, and you're going to have your other one up top like so. So you're going to kind of pull those away from each other. This so once again, this is your live yarn, so this is your working yarn, and this is your tail end here at the top, and you're going to have that slip knot and the top needle. So what you need to remember to do is that the top yarn goes around the bottom needle and the bottom yarn goes over the top needle. So the first one that you're going to do is, because we've got a stitch on the top needle, we're going to need to pop a stitch on the bottom needle. So you're going to bring this yarn underneath your bottom needle and over the top of it. So you're going to go under and over. Then you're going to want to put a stitch on your top needle up here. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to take that bottom yarn up and over like so. And then we've got two on the top needle, one on the bottom. So you're going to want to put one on the bottom. So you're going to move over and down like so. You can also do this by moving your needles instead of your hand. I tend to move my hand as I find it easier, but you can also move your needles. So we'll do it again a couple times. So I've got my last one, if I just kind of have a look there, is on the bottom here. You can see which bit of yarn is moving, that's the bottom one. So I need to put one on the top, which means bottom needs to go over the top of the needle and down through the middle. So it'll always go down through the middle, and then your bottom one goes over the bottom and down through the middle. So do that again. So your bottom yarn is going to go over the top and down through the middle. And now your top yarn is going to go down the bottom and through the middle. So if you prefer to move the needles, you can do that as well. So to do that, what you need to do is you maneuver the entire, both needles, because they're kind of joined together. If I let them go, they're together because obviously of how you've got the stitches. So what you're going to want to do is you want to put one around the top. So you're going to have to move the entire needle down like so, and then like that. What I would say is have a play with both techniques and see which one you prefer. I tend to do a bit of a combination of both. If you can move both the hand and the needle, then that works as well. Just make sure, I always struggle with tension when I'm doing this because it always ends up really, really tight. And what you'll want to do is make sure that the last stitch that you do is on the bottom needle, because the first one was on the top. So I've currently got one extra on the top, so I'm just going to do one more on the bottom like so. Now if I flip this over, show you what I've got. Here we go. This is what the bottom looks like. So they're almost like pearl bumps on the bottom. So this is your wrong side. So if we just flip it back, keeping those yarns nice and tight, what you then want to do is you want to turn like that. And what you want to now do is you want to make sure that your tail end here is just kind of wrapped around your working yarn. So I've just pulled my working yarn underneath it, and that's just going to help to secure it. So I've got my tail end here at the top, and you just want to keep that out the way. The amount of times I've started knitting with my tail end and got very annoyed with myself. So that's a mistake that you want to keep an eye out for. So what we're then going to do in order to knit these stitches is you're going to pull out the bottom needle, so the one closest to you. So we're going to pull that out just so that it's on the cable, which is why you need a circular. And then you're just going to need to take your working yarn, not your tail end, and you just need to knit those first stitches. So the first row, if you are a combination knitter, you're going to want to knit through the front leg of the stitch. That's because these ones are going to be twisted. If you're a continental knitter, then just knit your stitch as usual. On the second needle, you're going to want to knit through the back leg of the stitch. If you are a combination knitter, this is your usual knit stitch. If you are a continental knitter, you're going to want, this is going to be the opposite to what you're used to doing. So you knit through the back. That's just to, because like I said earlier, these stitches are going to be twisted. So depending on the way that you knit, you're just going to want to adapt your style just for that one row. Moving forward, you can knit as you would usually. It makes no difference. Right, and so once you've done that first row, you're going to want to pull your other needle. So always hold your stitches there, because sometimes you can pull the wrong needle out and then you're a little bit buggered. And then just slip those stitches back on. It's going to be quite tight, but don't worry, that's okay. And then turn them back the other way around. And obviously your working yarn is currently feeding off your bottom needle. So you want to pull out your bottom needle again. And then you're just going to knit these stitches through the back loop. There we go. Right, so here we are. So this is after one row. So I'm going to do a couple more rows on this, and then we'll come back and I'll show you just what it looks like when you're done. So as you can see here is we started knitting right in the middle, and you can't see on the back where you started knitting apart from where your yarn joins, which for me is there, and you can't actually see that seam. So if I turn that over, we're looking around that middle point here, and you genuinely cannot see where I started. And what this does is it means you don't have a seam on, for example, the toe of the sock where it's going to kind of rub on your toes the most. So this is a really, really great way of doing toe-up socks that leaves you without kind of an uncomfortable seam. And what my mum says, you've got to remember bottom to top, top to bottom, bottom to top, top to bottom. And then that will just help remind you that your top yarn goes through over the bottom needle and your bottom yarn goes over the top needle. And all you've got to remember is as long as that yarn comes back through the middle between your two needles, you're doing it absolutely fine. So it needs to end between the needles, like so. So that's it for my Judy's Magic cast on tutorial. If you've enjoyed this video, please do let me know by commenting below and liking it. We do have weekly videos, so please do subscribe to our channel. Our social media handle is Crafty Llama UK, so you can find us on various platforms using that. If you have used this technique or have used this video, please do tag me in anything that you make. We love to see what you're making, and of course you can purchase the needles that I've used in this video from our Etsy shop that I will link below. That's it for this week's video, but I'll be back with you next week for another one. Bye!